Why don't you go ahead and grab your Bibles, grab them, and go to the book of Psalms. That's right, the Psalms. It's a fantastic book. We're going to be in the 37th chapter, Psalm 37. Go there. I'm going to make my way there. There's a few great mysteries in life, things that just sort of baffle me, things that I can never get down to the bottom of, and I've only got really two, if you shake them down to two. One is just how amazing God is, how big He is, and how much He's done, how much His love has given to me, and what He does. It constantly amazes me. Just the more I learn about God, it's just crazy. The second great mystery in my life is why people watch Food Channel, and I'm still baffling with this. The first one I'm wrestling with, I'm trying to wrestle with. The second one just leaves me absolutely baffled. Any fans of the Food Channel here in my midst today? Mostly in this section right here. Yeah, sprinkled out over there. And the rest of you just don't admit it. But I don't know, honestly, I have no idea why. It literally is a confusing thing to me because last time I checked, these two words never are supposed to go together, which is food and then watch. You watch. You just watch, and it stays there. That's like me and you going to a restaurant and ordering, my favorite restaurant, and just going all out, right? Just, you know what, I'm just going to splurge. I'm going to get the appetizers. I'm going to go off the dessert and drinks, everything else. Have a slew of buffet out in front of me, and then you just sit there and look at it. Looks good. Smells good. And then the whole time, you carry on conversation, people are like, hey, this is your favorite meal, and you spent a lot of money on it. Are you going to eat it? No, not going to eat it. Why would you eat it? I'm just going to watch it. Come on, you're laughing, but now you raise your hand, not me. That's what you do when you watch the Food Channel. You just sit back and you're like, I'm full. No, see, you're not full. No one's ever gotten fat off of watching the Food Channel. And that's just history. Just look back and see all the facts that are turned up. No one has ever lost or gained any weight by just watching the Food Channel. But honestly, as funny as that may seem, I really honestly think too much of the time there is a deeper correlation to our lives and our relationship with God. I don't know about you, but have you ever just sat down to really just kind of hang out with God and to open up the Bible and maybe you're alone, like sometimes you're watching TV alone and you're just like spending time with God and you're opening up and you just feel like the Word is distant, like the stories that are supposed to be your story are just their history, their facts, they're not really life-giving. Come on, anybody feel that way? Just me? That's awesome. So anyway, Ryan, sometimes I feel like you're watching TV, like this is just distant. Like the promises of God that you want to hold on to, man, I want those, but it's almost like they're out of reach. And you're flipping through the channels and you can see them, but you can't experience them. Come on, somebody, you know what I'm talking about? Or what about your praying? Have you ever done that? Have you ever prayed just, oh man, Lord, I've got some heaviness, and you say that to come to you, and I'm coming to you with all this stuff, but it still stays, it's still there? Or how about you just need some direction? God, I got a massive decision or a few big decisions, and I need you to tell me. I just want you to speak. You can just put it up on a billboard. Just tell me what you want me to do. And you're like, I got nothing. I got nothing. Do you ever feel like that? Like if you're just watching the Food Channel? But that's sometimes how we go about our relationship. And I want to tell you that the purpose of God in our relationship with Him was never so that He can stay at a distance in our life. But the thing is, we sometimes go off of other people's relationship instead of actually making a relationship on our own. See, we have to own this thing. We've got to take it personal. We never get fed by watching our spouse or our neighbor eat dinner. We have to eat. We have to take ownership and say, you know what, God, I have some things going on. I've got some things that you need to get rid of, and I need some things that you need to speak on, that I want to come to you so that you can fill me up. You can feed me. You can nourish me. Because the last time I checked, physical food was for the energy. You need energy, so you eat food. If you're thirsty, you drink water. You've never told one of your kids, are you thirsty? Here's what I want you to do. Look at me. Focus. Dream really hard about water. Close your eyes. Just dream about it. Are you still thirsty? Yes, I'm still thirsty. Okay, go get the boy water. Have him drink. Are you okay? Yeah, I'm okay. And that's exactly what God does. He says, listen, come to me, because this is the water that you can drink and you'll never thirst again. Come on, you catching this? But that's not a phrase. That's not a Twitter post that you can just put up there and like, hey, good quote. No. It's more than that. It's an experience that God actually wants to get in our lives and say, I want you to experience this personal, firsthand experience of my goodness. And that's exactly what God talks about in Psalm 37. Here's what he says. He says, simply but powerfully delight yourself in the Lord. Just delight yourself in the Lord. Just enjoy my presence. Isn't that the purpose of this book? Because if we just get in here and we think, well, okay, that's a fact, that's in chapter 62, and that's in verse 3, and I've got an answer for you, and I can justify all the things that I'm doing, or I can tell you what Genesis 32 verse 1 says. I mean, if it's just facts, if it's just logic, if it's just cognitive stimulation, then we are doing this wrong. But if we open up this book and say, God, I want to get to know you, I want to actually find out about the author. I see that there is 66 very random books that got put together and are unified, that are not contradictory, that are absolutely true. That's not by accident. I want to know the God who can put 66 books in order, because I need a God who can put my life in order. And then you start looking at that and you're saying, I don't know what you're doing in other people, and I'm not comparing myself, although it's really easy to do. I need you to do a good work in me. And so we go after these things, these pursuits, these answers to prayer, these promises, these claims, these commandments that God willingly gives us, like joy and direction and purpose and fulfillment and satisfaction and love and grace and mercy and all those things. But can I tell you, church, everything that I just listed, every single promise of God is secondary to just spending time with Him. 2 Corinthians chapter 1 says this, that every single promise, all the promises in God are a yes. This is big. This is a massive presupposition in His presence. You can't have the things that He gives without having a relationship with the giver. Enjoy God. Why? Just because He wants to be with you. So our church right now, and maybe you are coming up to the end of our fast. We've been fasting for the past couple weeks, and we're going all the way through to the very beginning of February. And if you're not fasting and you want to, you totally join us. Just do it now. Whatever you want to do, just that's what we've been doing. But some people it's been difficult. But let me just take a step back and ask you, why? Why are you fasting? Why are you getting rid of things? Why are you separating else, maybe time, so that you can spend with God? Why are you doing that? Out of obligation? Because if you call yourself a Christian, you're supposed to? Is because Jesus did it, so I figured I would do it? Because if it's out of obligation, we're missing the entire point. If we're doing it out of tradition, if we're doing it out of routine, that's nothing less than just religion. And God didn't come down and send His Son so that we can be free and have life abundantly for religion. He came so that we can have a relationship, an abundant, fulfilling, awesome, life-giving, amazing, grace-filled, mercy-bound relationship with the Creator of heaven and earth. And so He said, I want you to be free, and who I set free will be free indeed. But at the same time, what I want you to do is just step back. Come on, you and I, let's just hang out. Let's be together. Because in being together with God, then you'll know what to do. Isn't that what happened in Mark chapter 1, verse 35? Jesus, while it was still early, got up, separated Himself, went over to pray. Why? Because He was about to get pulled by some other people, and He knew what to do. You got to just be with God. Let me give you a practical principle, just relational dynamics. This will help your spouse, this will help your relationships, but primarily it's going to help your relationship with God. There's two main facets of it, and it's the point of you being with someone and you doing something for them. Love is demonstrated in both. Quality time, just showing up. Just be with them. Just hang out with them. Sometimes in tragedy, that's the best thing you can do. I remember a quote when a guy went to the hospital and he just stood there right before his friend, and friends were coming in and out, and he said, hey, aren't you going to say anything to your friend? And the guy goes, if he's not comforted by my presence, he sure won't be comforted by my words. Sometimes you just need to show up in people's lives. That's what Job's friend did during suffering. I don't know what to say, but we're here. But then you go on the other side and you say, you know, there's a time for me to do something for you. I want to sacrifice. I want to go the second mile. I want to go further to show you how much I love you. Because it goes way beyond duty at that point. For your spouse, you want a great relationship, do something that they're not expecting. But can I just tell you this? If you swing the pendulum too far and all you do is just do things for them and do things for God and do things for your spouse and do things for your friends, you're going to get exhausted. And whenever you find tension in your relationship, maybe you've just been doing and you need to stop that and just be with them. Hey, we probably should just go out on a date tonight. Just you and me. No projects. No talking shop. Just you and me. I need to get to know you. Just slow down a little bit. Because when you're being with somebody, you're just enjoying them. Do you want to know why healthy relationships are built on that? It's because that's what the foundation of our relationship with God is built on, being with him. And that's why he says in Psalm 37, delight yourself. Just enjoy me. I'm everywhere. I want you to enjoy me. But here's what happens. Going back to the food channel idea. So you're sitting down and you're watching the food channel in your couch because you're like, man, I just want to shut off every part of my body because I'm lazy and I've had a long day and I just want to watch. So you're watching the food channel. Hopefully the food channel will actually inspire you enough to do this. It'll get you to the point where you're lounging, you're vegging, and you're just kind of hanging out. And then all of a sudden you do this. I need to get up and I'm going to fix that meal that I just saw. Inspire you enough to action. 1 Peter actually says this, prepare your mind for action. You want to know why? You're not going to do anything until you're ready to do it. Because the motive has to be shaken out first before actions can follow. Or else you're just doing it for the wrong reasons. Come on, you following? So sometimes the biggest jump that we can take is actually sitting down in comfort and then just getting up from comfort to say, I need to be challenged. I need to go do that. So then all of a sudden you're watching the food channel and you think, man, that's amazing. I'm going to get up and I'm going to take time. I'm going to go to the store. I'm going to go to the grocery store and I'm going to go spend time picking out all the ingredients and making sure which one, oh, don't add this one, but add this one and make sure this one's there, but that one's not. You go around the grocery store and it takes time to search and down the aisle. It's not down that aisle, it's down this one. And you get it and you get back to the cash register and then you have a conundrum. You think, well, what should I do? Should I steal this food or should I purchase it? Hopefully you're going to choose the latter, and you pay for the food, and then you say, this is going to cost you a certain amount of money. Church, I'm not talking about food. Come on, are you catching the connection? To spend time with God, it's going to cost you. You're going to have to sacrifice at some point in time worship. Sometimes you don't feel like worshiping. Sometimes you don't feel like coming on Sunday. Anybody? Come on. Like this Sunday, I'm exhausted. Can we just stay in our PJs and not go to church, not put makeup on, not put our clothes on, not do anything, not get ready, not go serve? I would like that. Sometimes it's like, you know what? But we need to be there because I'm not showing up for church just for me. There's other people that need to see me because I want to encourage them and I want to love on them and I want to serve them. And they need to see me worship through the tragedy in my life so that I can worship at the good times in my life. Come on, somebody catching this? And sometimes at church, when you come to church on Sunday, you don't get fed. Well, maybe it wasn't for you. You're supposed to feed other people. So go eat up, right? Just go eat up. Just hang out with God, and then you can just give. And so back to the analogy, you sit down, you go shopping, you go to the grocery store, and then you come back and you pay for it because it costs you something. And then you get to your house and what do? You go to the kitchen and you spread it all out, and you got all the ingredients there. And then what do? There's some preparation time. Let me just tell you what happens. You chop some stuff up, separate some bad and some good. I'm not talking about food. Sometimes you need a little bit of slicing because it cuts deep. Sometimes you need to wash some things because they're dirty when they come to the store. Come on, you with me? Sometimes, you maybe have some meat that needs to be tenderized. Just flip it over a little bit on the other side. This needs a lot of tenderizing this morning. You ever have one of those days? You're like, I don't know, God, I'm going to need a lot of time in prayer way before I even read your word because this thing's not ready. Just not ready. I got a lot of questions, and I'm just frustrated with you because I have no idea what you're doing, and you need to help me out. You just need some tenderizing. You need to prepare. Just like you prepare the meal, you prepare your heart to go before him. And then, oh, guys, come on, just lean in a little bit. And then comes the part where after you prepare, after you cook, you can eat. Come on, oh, come on. That's just a grunt that you're ready for. You're like, yes, the greatest words ever said in human history is dinner's ready. No, I'm kidding. But then you sit down and you're like, oh, I get to eat, right? Because you're enjoying, the fruits of your labor. Yeah, come on, you get this? And the same idea is God wants you to do the same. But the fruits of the labor is not like, hey, you need to go after love and joy. You need to go pursue being a better man. Stop pursuing that and start pursuing Jesus. In my small group, like last month, one of our guys, he's a Paul figure in my life, Ralph. He was in one of the earlier services. In my small group, he said this, and I wrote it down. I loved it. He says, men, look at me. Let me give you a tip. The key to being the man of God is this. And I was like, oh, what's up? I got it. I'm just ready for my pen. He goes, pursue God, and your wife will pursue you. And I was like, what's up? That's so good. Because when you pursue God, then all of a sudden your wife, because that's what we want, guys. We're like, I want my wife to pursue me, so why don't you pursue God, a noble task, so that you can get changed, so she can see that change in you and say, I'm going after you. I'm going after you. And this process is making sure that we actually have that in order. Instead of going after the secondary things like purpose and identity and love, those things will come. Food, those things will come. Satisfaction, those things will come. But do you just enjoy hanging out with God? You just say, God, I just want to hang out. I want to be with you. Did you take Psalm 37 and say, God, I delight in you? Or is church an obligation? Is reading the word hard? Is fasting a trek? I mean, I don't know what it is, but all these disciplines get a bad rap because they're supposed to take us to a place where we just, God, I really appreciate you. I know you more. I can see you more. I can experience you more. You're taking me to a bigger place where I've never been before. And that's the hope. That's the identity. And we get there, I want you to check out, if you can just bring Psalm 37 back up. Listen, it's two phrases. Delight yourself in the Lord. And check out the next part. He will give you the desires of your heart. Delight yourself in him. He will give you the desires of your heart. Now, I know what you're thinking. Finally, I get that really big house on the corner. Finally, I get my new car. That's my desire, right? That's my desire, is to have that car that I've been working for, or that title. God, I'm going to pursue you because I really need that job promotion. You're like, you might need to get your motives checked when you get in there. You know what I mean? Because here's what happens. Delight yourself in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart. The desires of your heart need to be, need to be tweaked. They need to be worked on a little bit. Let me say it to you like this. In 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, check out what it says, and let me explain a little bit. 1 Thessalonians chapter 5 says this. When it comes on the screen, I'll tell you what it says. 1 Thessalonians, may the God of all peace sanctify you. Sanctify. Sanctify is a really fancy word of saying change you from the inside out to be more like Jesus. That's really the process for you and I to become more like Jesus in our motives, our thoughts, our wills, our desires. Sanctify you. May the God of all peace sanctify you completely. Not halfway, not start the process, but never finish. No, completely. Completely allow your spirit, your soul, and your body. That's your desires, your will, your emotions, your thought process, your motives, your actions. That's everything. So then you say, okay, how do we fix that? You rewind and you say, spend some time with God. Because if we can categorize, 1 Thessalonians chapter 5 is talking about the process of your relationship to be with God and also to do things for God. Come on, you with me? And he says before one goes out with the other, you got to make sure that you can be with God. Enjoy him. Delight yourself in him so that he can get to give you the desires of your heart. Those are your will, your emotions, your move, your direction, your thought process, your language, and the way you live your life. Those are secondary. Things like peace, patience, love, joy. You getting this? Step back and just enjoy your time with God. So out of the overflow of that, you can do things for him. Now, I know what you're thinking. Listen, Ryan, great speech, whatever, but I don't have time. Like, I work 8 to 10, maybe 12 hours a day. I go home, take care of the family. I got to sleep, for at least a few hours, or if you're a teenager, 14 hours. But whatever the process may be, we have this schedule that daily and weekly is just packed. So how are you supposed to wedge in? And see, this message, you're thinking, okay, this message is telling me that I probably should spend about 6 hours a day with God. Carve it out, 6 hours. Just punch it in. noon to 6, maybe that suits your fancy. Or midnight, sacrifice for the Lord, midnight to 6 a.m., so that's 6 hours. That's not what I'm talking about. Here's what I'm saying. I'm saying God has already given you and I the same amount of time, 24 hours in a day. How about you do this? Everything that you do in those 24 hours, be with him. Isn't that what he told Adam? This relationship is awesome. I love coming down and walking in the cool of our day, but Adam, I'm going to give you this land, and I want you to work it. It's good for you and I to have work. So do you work 8 hours? Great. Be with God and do work with him. I can't tell you how many projects I've done at home and here, and through the process, I'm just constantly talking to him. God, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to figure that out. I need some clarity on this, and this person said that, and this situation happened. Let me get down to the root of it. And they're just processing it through. It's not like, okay, stop, punch out at work, leave to go home, and then I got an issue, and then I got to pray and meditate for like 16 hours, and then you come back to work. Okay, I got the solution. No, that's long and gone. What God wants you to do is work. Just be with him while you do what you're called to do. Come on, you catching this? Whatever you do, let's say you go to sleep. Anybody, come on, just be honest. We talked about food already. Anybody love sleep? Just love some sleep? I think 95% of you guys are not being honest, but anyway, I just keep going and assume that you guys are on the same page. If you love sleep, God actually talks about sleep in the Bible. So you take the 8 hours you sleep, or 2 hours, or 5, or 12, or whatever it is, and why don't you take that time and actually give that over to God? Like as you're falling asleep, why don't you just, my wife and I sometimes just put worship music on really, really low, so whenever it's done, it just stops playing after 15 or 20 minutes, and we go to sleep with just worship music, just thinking. Sometimes we just pray in the Spirit while we go to sleep, and it's not weird, it's just comforting to us. God, we want to give our lives over to you. I'm going to be under the operating table for 8 hours. I'm going to be asleep. God, you don't sleep, so why don't you take that process and work something out in me? You know what I mean? Or take this idea, if you're reading through the one-year Bible and you're reading through the Old Testament, you know that God speaks to people a lot in dreams. So why don't you just say, God, I want you to give me some dreams. I want you to give me some things to go after. Give me some things that I can remember when I wake up so that you can just let me know what you're doing in my life. So you write those down and you process through, hey, I just spent 8 hours or 10 hours of sleep, but I was with you during that time. And then when you go to work, you do the same thing. And in the midst of your relationships at work and at home and everything else, God, I want to be with you. I want to delight in you. I want to think about you, because around here at Grace, we say that you live in the kingdom that you think of most often. So while you're at work, what world are you living in? When you're actually in your marriage, hanging out with your spouse, what world are you thinking of? Come on, somebody. You can be physically at home, but your heart and your mind be somewhere else. And then your spouse leans in and she goes, hey, where are you? You're like, what? I'm right here, But maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm not. And maybe God is starting that process in us to say, hey, why don't you just allow your process, your thoughts, your emotions to be aware of what God's doing, and you go about living and working through that particular day and all the other relationships that God really wants to process through. You following? Now, here's the idea, because it's definitely not a new one. This is an ancient idea. It's an old idea. I don't know if you guys are familiar with church history, but you guys would probably know something about the catechisms. Anybody know anything about the catechisms? There are these particular values inside the church and inside the Bible and inside of Christianity. And a bunch of church fathers a long time ago just got together and they said, hey, there's a few catechisms. There's short ones and there's long ones, but they're just like summary verses, summary values, just to say we think these are a summation of what God is looking for in our relationship. And so I don't want to go through all of them, but I just want to highlight one. And it's this one. And it's the chief end of man. Have you ever heard that one? The chief end of man. Now that's a fancy old English term by way of saying the purpose of why you're here. The very calling on your life. That's like today's language. Why am I on here? So in old English terms, that would be what they would say. The chief end of man. You want to know what the one catechism is? That one value that they would summarize in Christianity? as the chief end of man, it's this: to glorify God and to enjoy him forever. Now you're thinking, okay, enjoy him. Got it. That's what we're talking about today, delighting in him. Okay, I understand that. But I don't know about you, but have you ever been just 5 minutes inside the church world and they talked about in worship or in conversation, hey, you just need to glorify God. Hey, everybody, come on, just glorify God. Or the purpose of this entire book and for you in our lives is to glorify God. And have you ever been like, yeah, that sounds good, but sort of an ambiguous term. What does that mean? But you don't want to be that person that leans over and like, hey, Buck, that's a good word. What does glorify God mean? You know what I mean? Anybody want to be that person just to ask that question? You're like, not really. But it's just it's a term that we just like, I'm not really sure if I can grab a hold of. But I want you to look at that sentence. The chief end of man is to glorify God and enjoy him forever. It's not two things, it's one and the same. The more you enjoy God, the more you give him glory. The more you can actually just be attentive and aware of who God is in your life, the more you can go to your work and glorify him. Because everything that you do exudes his presence. Everything that you say is having a mentality that you're thinking about him, so you just speak what's on his mind, which, come on, now your mind is being folded over to the mind of Christ. So isn't that what Paul says? That our will is becoming more of his will and our hearts are becoming his hearts. Isn't that what God wants? He wants you to go to work for however many hours you're supposed to work and to glorify God. How? How are you supposed to do that? By giving your life over to him, enjoying him in the midst of the skill that he has given you to do. So if you're a stay-at-home mom, be the best stay-at-home mom you can. Love on your kids, but enjoy God by just being with him. If you're a business owner, how are you supposed to operate a business? Be in a relationship with him by showing everybody else the example of what character and integrity and love and selflessness really looks like and the character of a man, so that can flow over to your business. You can do good work and skillful labor, but at the same time, you exude this thing where while you work, you whistle. While you work, you worship. While you work, you just love on people. So much so that down to the smallest iota, down to the details, of Paul says in 1 Corinthians, whether you eat, whether you drink, do so for the glory of God. Now, see, I don't know about you, but I think, okay, I got some water, and I want to drink for the glory of God. Have you ever thought about that? Like, what does it look like? Is it like you're about to drink, but you need to worship. Hands raised, yeah. Praise God. Like what does that look like? Like all things, to whether you eat or whether you drink. I think it's a little bit more simple than that. I think it's enjoying the fact that God has given you substance to remind you constantly that you're thirsty, not just for physical water, but for him. That you constantly need to eat food because you can't survive without it. Not on the physical food that's in front of you, but on every word that proceeds from the Father's mouth. I think it's a reminder that our physical bodies are limited, but so are our souls limited and dependent on him. I think it's just the fact that God, before this amazing meal, I want to enjoy the creator of all these things. God, I want to enjoy you while I eat. I want to enjoy you while I'm with my family. I want to enjoy you while I'm at work. I want to enjoy you in my downtime. Because the more I enjoy you, the more I glorify him. In Jesus' name.